This has been a difficult recovery, and he's done everything he needs to do. He's been here every day. He's here early, working hard, but we're still working it, and he's not ready to get back out. And we're in the midst of a long, challenging process here. So, fortunately, there's a lot of time, and we're going to take every bit of it. We've really tried to be really diligent about the way we've worked it and the way we've monitored it and all of that. And he's been on board the whole time. So, but it has been challenging.
What's good, Raider Nation? Welcome back to Vegas Nation. First and 10, your weekly go-to for Raider news and analysis. We just heard from Pete Carroll. That was all the way back in May. So before everybody freaks out on that, we'll put that in perspective, give us some time to get to that. But before we get to all that, I just want to let everyone know I'm Vinny Bonsignore. I cover the Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation. To my left is my great colleague, Adam Hill. He also covers the Raiders and everything else for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation. A reminder, all Vegas Nation podcasts are brought to you by Station Casinos, STN Sports, and the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and we thank them for all of their support. Christian Wilkins, we're going to start right there. Not a big surprise, obviously. I think everything pointed to the Raiders, and that what we're talking about is that Christian Wilkins was just put on the physically unable to perform list to start training camp. I'll get into all the particulars of what that means, but Adam Hill, no big surprise. Coming off the foot injury in week 5 of last year, suffered a setback in January-ish, sometime earlier this year, that knocked him out of all of OTAs and minicamp. No surprise right now that he's going to start training camp, and we'll keep that right there on the PUP list.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a surprise if you said back in week 5 that he wouldn't have been ready this year.
True. He was actually almost ready to come back last year.
He tried, and he was pushing forward, and who knows if that was part of what this is. I know there's a lot of speculation about that, but potentially it was trying to rush himself back, which could have done this. We don't know.
Yeah.
But after we heard Pete Carroll say that back in, I believe it was OTAs.
May.
I think we came on here and said, This is the thing.
Yeah.
Like he could have just come on and said he's close, he's on his way back, he's working his way back. I think what Pete Carroll expressed there was a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty at that time probably leads you to believe, like, where is he going to be once training camp starts? So, look, this is not he's out for the season. This is not they have no chance of having him this year. This is he's not ready to start practicing right away when the team hits the field this week. So it's something to monitor, something to be like. When you're making your thoughts for the season of how it's going to go, keep it in perspective. We don't know exactly what you're going to get out of Christian Wilkins, but it's not freak out time yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just to get into the butts and the nuts and bolts of the PUP list, it basically means he's not able to pass his physical right now. It has not been cleared for football activities. So there's like this waiting area that you could put players that are in that category, and there's a lot actually around the league. I think there were, I forget what team it was, but I saw that there were 4 rookies that were on their PUP list. So basically, you do that at this point for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it gives you time and gives the player time to get healthy. Now, once he's medically cleared to play, then he could be activated at any point during the preseason and training camp. However, once you show up to practice, you can't go back on the PUP list. Right. So that's why you do it now rather than – and we don't know where he is on his timeline. But let's just, for argument's sake, say the Raiders feel like, he's about a week away. Let's go ahead and have him practice the first day of practice. And then all of a sudden he gets hurt again. Now he can't go on the PUP list. You have to do it at this point to get that all kind of squared away. And then to give the proper time and the necessary time for him to get healthy and then get cleared by the doctors to participate.
Yeah, and I mean it's a procedural thing. Certainly, it's if he's not ready, you don't want to put him out there, and we don't know how close he is. He could be a week away, could be full camp away.
Right.
You don't really know. It could be something that lingers into the season. Like I said, that's not something they're willing to discuss right now. I don't think it's something they know right now. Honestly,
right.
I don't think anybody knows exactly when it's going to be ready, but I don't think that I know what it feels like for a fan to be like, he's not ready. Oh no.
Right.
And maybe, but I think it probably is trending on the other side of, hey, a lot of guys just aren't ready to start practicing, can't pass their physical right now. It's just kind of a thing that you deal with at the beginning of
Colton
training camp
Miller
every year.
Last year,
sure.
And Jackson Powers-Johnson, right? Both of them, if I remember correctly. I know they didn't practice, so they must have been on the PUP list. I believe that was the case. and both of them started the season, or at least Colton started the season ready to go. So not time to freak out just yet, but it does put a level of concern or keeps intact a level of concern with Christian Wilkins and what exactly they're going to get from a player that, let's be honest, they signed to a big contract for a lot of money. There's a reason why they did that. He's a good player, and he means a lot to them. So not having him for any length of time is problematic, especially if it starts eating away into the regular season.
Yeah, I think it would if he wasn't there, it would change everybody's roles like it did last year. I mean, it did change what everybody's roles were when you don't have that one guy that you can count on there, and everybody else can just kind of fill in. Now somebody else has to step up and take that lead role, and again, trickles down to every other spot in the defensive tackle rotation. Now, the positive side, I guess, of this, and look, I think you can also, we talked about Pete Carroll saying what he said, and that was kind of the first indication of there's something here.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong about that. The draft is the first indication that there's something here, because they did address defensive tackle pretty heavily at that point with a couple of guys that, potentially could be rotational type players right now and could be very good players down the road. So I think once they went, and I think they addressed it might have been back-to-back picks that they did. That was close to the middle.
It was like a fourth and then a sixth.
It was close. It was in the middle of the draft. They went to
which, by the way, real quick, also could be, you could read a little bit of that into that as well, that they didn't do it higher in the draft. So that maybe I'm just think about it from various perspectives. If he was somebody that they felt was going to be gone for the whole year, or there was a legit
early in the
second round, maybe even the first round, there was definitely some worthy defensive linemen earlier in the draft. This was actually a really deep draft for defensive linemen. Yeah. So if you want to be optimistic, I guess, the fact that it wasn't until Tonka and Hemming
JJ were both picked, right? So
yeah,
it was right in the middle. But you're right.
Day 3.
Yeah, you could have said but maybe they just didn't fall. Who knows how it was, but at least when they addressed it was like, okay, well, they are at least building some depth there, regardless of where it is. So look, I think the best way to put this, even though it sounds like it's saying nothing, because it is, it's not nothing.
No.
But it's not necessarily a big thing either.
Correct. A long way to go.
Yeah.
A long way to go. And again, I mentioned this on a previous podcast. The original timeline for the injury that he suffered, a Jones fracture, was 8 to 12 weeks, which is why he was actually closing in on a potential return, and he wanted to get back on the field. He got the surgery the day after the incident or the injury, which that was kind of unusual to begin with. And then he was pushing to come back later in the year, which is an indication of the progress that he was making. Whatever happened, and I've talked to some people that have a peripheral knowledge of it, they still are of the belief that if it's just a reoccurrence, or we had mentioned that maybe a screw got broken that gets inserted into these procedures, if that breaks, then the 8 to 12 week timeline just resets basically. And so depending on when it happened, and we think it was January, February, we kind of doing some detective work, then that there's your 8 to 12 week timeline comes back into play. So, and I was told, wouldn't be a shock if he was ready to play by the season opener. I would imagine, though, that they're going to handle this with as much care as possible in order to have him for the longest balance of the season rather than rushing him back just to get him back on the field for week 1.
Yeah. And if you're trying to do the math there, yes, this is much longer than 12 weeks from February. Yes, we understand that. But it's just, again,
but we don't know when he had the surgery, too, because remember, there was a time when he was out there, right?
Yeah, we saw him.
And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he's we see him in a walking boot, which I would think when the walking boot was introduced is when the surgery probably happened.
Potentially. Again, a lot of speculation for sure.
Because the last thing you want to do is do the surgery first, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to
see how it is, see if you need it.
Right, exactly. Because who wants to go under the knife? With that, we're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about some good news for the Raiders, better news, I should say, and that's the signing of a very key player in this draft class.
So if you haven't had a chance to get the app yet, again, we still have the $50 no-worry wager available. What a great time to get in the summer. Get yourself familiar with the app. The auto racing, horse racing, the golf,
women's softball
the MMA.
coming up.
Whatever you're interested in, check out the STN Sports app.
Welcome back, Raider Nation, to Vegas Nation First and 10. Vinny Bonsignore with Adam Hill, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and Vegas Nation. All right, so the long wait is over, which was very predictable. I tried to walk a lot of people off the cliff. Jack Bech will get signed. The Raiders' second-round pick is going to get signed, and it's likely going to happen before anything serious happens in training camp. That did occur yesterday. We are taping on Friday, so it happened on Thursday. The Raiders and their second-round pick, the 58th pick overall, did come to terms on a standard four-year rookie contract. Now, the key to the whole thing is the reason it even took this long. And Adam Hill has, covered this and talked extensively about this, and he's going to get
very, very passionate issue.
And he's going to get onto his, give you his position on all this. We differ a little bit on this, and I'll explain why. And I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to take any money away from anybody, but it would be hard to guarantee all NFL contracts, fully guarantee them. It's just too physical of a sport, and if you do that, you're going to have to change the salary cap or change the length of contracts. But before we get to all that, Jack Bech signed his contract, 4-year deal, and it's not fully guaranteed. And that was the big holdup because the second-round pick and then subsequently the first second-round pick, both for the first time since rookie contracts began being slotted in 2011, were fully guaranteed. That's never happened before. And once those two players did that at picks, the first two picks of the second round, then every second-round pick from that point on was looking at their agent saying, "I want fully guaranteed contract."
The agent
right.
saying the players
to
were
the
doing
to
this.
the
Right.
yeah to the NFL teams, and NFL teams were like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen," which is why a bunch of second-round picks just haven't signed, and then slowly but surely a couple started signing. I think one did sign for a fully guaranteed money. But then the pick right before Jack Bech, pick number 57, signed his contract, and it wasn't fully guaranteed, which basically
which means pretty much everyone behind him
is not going to.
In the second round is just going to sign their deals.
Exactly.
That's how it's going to happen.
Right.
The players needed to unify on this. They needed to be strong. They needed to hold out. And once one doesn't, then there's really nothing to hold out for. I mean, they all needed to do it. So as you mentioned, number 2 gets guaranteed money. So right away, number 1 got guaranteed money, no question. Mm-hmm. But none of the other picks behind them had signed.
There was no way that There was no way that the NFL teams were going to buckle on that.
They could have. They could have. I think they could have forced this. So here. I mean, this could be this. We could probably do a 7-hour podcast, and I would love to on this. Because
and I'm not against anyone getting all the money that they deserve.
I do believe this is the most important thing in football right now. Probably the most important thing in sports right now. The players' union in the NFL, the NFLPA, is a disaster right now. Mm-hmm. It's a mess.
There's no question about that.
Has been for a long time, and it's all coming to the surface now. A lot of things are going on. But if you go back and look, and one of the things that led to this entire downfall of the system, and again, I'll try to be a little bit short on this because, trust me, we could go on for hours. One of the things that led to this was the Deshaun Watson contract in 2022. Now, I understand.
Probably the worst.
It's a terrible
example.
Contract to hold up.
It's like if you're anybody in any building right now, you're literally pointing to that and saying, "Yeah, we're not going to do that."
And so what happened was he signed that deal, and
which was the only way he was ever going to go to Cleveland.
But every agent said, "Okay, we have quarterbacks," and there was 3 major quarterbacks up for contracts that year, and they said, "We have to do this." The NFLPA was basically, "Hey, you need to do this," and it didn't happen. The league, according to an arbiter, the league colluded to make sure that the contracts didn't happen. Now, he couldn't find them guilty because of a lot of things that were going on along there, but he said in the report there is no question the league colluded to make sure that these contracts weren't guaranteed.
Yeah, basically that if you're owner A, you're telling owner B, C, D, E, we're not doing this.
And then reaching out and congratulating each other, which if a guaranteed contract was that bad and you want a competitive advantage, why would you congratulate another? It's crazy what all the details of this are. Anyway, at the time, the NFLPA came out and basically said to its members, The only way this is going to happen in no other sport, because every other sport is guaranteed contracts, and it didn't happen.
Every other sport doesn't have a salary cap.
Well, they kind of do.
Not like this.
Sure.
It's not a salary cap like the NFL. There's major.
Right, that's part of what has to happen when you do for sure. This is what.
Or
has
you
to
just
happen.
go to what I keep saying. If you want guaranteed money, and I'm fully on board of that, then instead of 4-year contracts, you're going to sign 2-year contracts. If I'm an NFL owner, I'll tell the player. The players aren't going to want to do this. We'll see where the breaking point is on that. If I'm an owner and knowing how physical this sport is and how hamstrung I can be on my salary cap, if in years 3 and 4 your injuries have completely robbed you. So in order to avoid that, let's go on 2-year deals. You want $100 million guaranteed, $50 million a year.
Okay.
I'll do that for 2 years, but I'm not going to do 150.
But all those reasons are exactly why the contracts need to be guaranteed. Obviously,
What's that?
The players are what matters. Those are the reasons the contracts do need to be guaranteed to look out for the players. I mean, that's clearly why there should be guaranteed contracts in the NFL.
Because
there is such a risk of injury and not being able to perform at that level.
But
and the players are putting themselves on the line for that. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, see you later. You're out.
Yeah.
No, we don't need you anymore. That's why from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
That's why you should be rooting for players that have guaranteed contracts and all these other things. Anyway, what I was getting back to is in 2022 when Deshaun Watson signed the contract, and again, ignore the fact that it's Deshaun Watson, but when he signed the contract, the player said, hey, look, this has never happened through CBAs. It's never been collectively bargained. What has happened is, in every other sport, a player has signed a guaranteed contract, fully guaranteed, and every other agent has said, we're getting guaranteed deals too, and set the precedent for it, and then it happened. It happened through basically everybody sticking together and saying, this is how it is now. And then it got negotiated into CBAs later. So the league,
therefore, guarantees have gone up dramatically
and
over there. There's a lot of guarantees with NFL contracts.
Sure.
They're just not fully guaranteed.
Right. And so what the agent said at the time, everybody has to get guaranteed contracts. The league made sure that didn't happen. And so they didn't get guaranteed, and they didn't set the precedent, they didn't stick together, and we saw what we saw. Deshaun Watson's deal did not set a precedent going forward for quarterbacks.
Not at all.
So now, when there is a fully guaranteed contract for a second-round pick in 2022, the agents say, we are making it happen this time. Everybody, make sure you do not sign a non-guaranteed contract, and that's what was happening. The players were waiting, and they were saying, no, we want a guaranteed contract for second-rounders, and once one buckled, you're going to see a bunch of guys sign. That's just how it's going to go because now that's the precedent.
Yeah, because the NFL wasn't going to they weren't going to do that. They were like, okay, we're not. Then you're not going to get signed right now. Yeah.
Then you don't have your second round picks. I mean, and that's
but that was not going to happen either.
Right.
Everyone was going to sign.
They were going to do it eventually.
Yes,
I think they would have. I think they would have got the guaranteed contracts eventually. Although I will say the league is stronger than the players' union, which is the entire issue here. Like that is why this is an issue. And if you go and look and deep dive into what's going on, and that high-level officials at the NFLPA were also working for the NFL, kind of in a way through private equity firms, like it is a mess of rich getting richer, players not getting what I think they deserve, and what I think a lot of fans should think they deserve. Although for some reason fans a lot of times are on the side of the teams, which is crazy.
Well, I think. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think the reason that they are is because they are savvy enough to understand the implications on your salary cap. Now, if you want to go,
of course, the salary cap would have.
If you want to go in but until you do, and that's not going to happen until the next collective bargaining agreement.
Sure.
Until you do, then it's virtually impossible to guarantee every single contract that's out there, unless again you want to just cut it to 2-year deals, and then let's see where we are after 2 years. Until that happens, and I'm not saying that I would necessarily be opposed to that, because if you go, if I forget when the this current CBA runs through, but we got some time on it. Yep. There's some years on it. At some point, if you want to go in there and reverse engineer the salary cap system to allow for, if there's a fully guaranteed money and that player can no longer physically play, but I still owe him the money, that money gets put aside somewhere else, and we get salary cap relief.
Right.
So when you're saying that the fans are taking the owner's side,
no,
I think that's
not about this. In almost every labor situation I've ever watched or covered or paid attention to, the fans end up taking the side of the owners, and I never understand why.
Well,
I never understand why.
Okay, I'll give you that. But I think in this case, it's because they understand.
I'm also pretty certain that if they were to go to guaranteed contracts, and the owners were like, "Well, then we need to modify the CBA in order to fix." I'm pretty sure the players would be like, "Yeah, let's do it." Like they could go back to the negotiating table. That could happen if that was the case.
Yeah.
Obviously, the league does not want to pay guaranteed contracts. That's the issue. I mean, and that's
well,
fine. That's,
I mean, yeah, because if you're an owner, you're going, okay, so I'm going to be on the hook. Like, it is it's not a simple issue. It's a very definitely not.
Issue.
And you could see it from both sides without question.
And I will say this. I wrote it in a column, and I'll say right now, I have talked to players because it is a passion of mine to look out for players, to make sure players get everything that they should, everything they deserve, far more than they're getting now, honestly. And if you want to get into the talk, yes, NFL players are drastically underpaid. There's no question about that. But that is a passion of mine. I talk to players about this all the time, and I will tell you right now that there are players that are like, yeah, I don't know about guaranteed contracts because they're going to start really screwing us over on the other end, as you said. Instead of a 4-year deal, I might get a 2-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm, kind of okay, they're going to sign me to a 1-year deal because it's fully guaranteed, or they're not going to sign me at all. They're going to sign some undrafted free agent off the street for a league minimum guaranteed contract instead of signing a veteran that might work out because they don't want to guarantee my contract. Those are absolutely issues. Absolutely. And that is why some players are like, yeah, I'm not sure I fully want that.
Let me ask you something.
Fully guaranteed deal.
Russell Wilson's deal.
Yeah.
Okay, not fully guaranteed.
No.
Made every penny of it.
Yep.
Made every penny of it. Now, just throwing this out there, did his play, would you say, in the last 3 years of his deal warrant the money?
No.
Okay, but he made the money. He still made the money. So was it fully guaranteed? No. And a lot of these big contracts, I'd have to go back and look, but a lot of these big, longer contracts, as long as you play through the length of your deal, you're getting all of your money.
Yeah, but a lot of contracts are phony numbers, right? We know that. I mean, but when you see the guaranteed portion, when you see that there's two kinds of guarantees. There's fully guaranteed and there's guaranteed. Right.
The guaranteed comes with stipulations. You got to be healthy.
Right.
And I'm sure there's some performance like we'll be able to get out of it. Our roster guarantee, but you have to be on the roster to get that guaranteed bonus. And if you're not playing up to snuff, then you may not be on the roster to collect that guarantee. So there's, like I said, there's two different guarantees. But if you're doing your job at a high enough level, and you remain on contract for the length of the contract, you're getting all of your money, and we've seen that plenty of times before. So, the fully guaranteed, every single penny of it, in a league that's this physical and injuries are this prevalent, unless you.
But again, that is why those reasons are why they need them.
Yeah,
why the players need them, right? So what you're saying is because. If you really look at it, and I've heard this argument, I think there is better arguments of the salary cap issue. Obviously, is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping guys that are veterans from contracts because you don't want to fully guarantee those are real things. Those are legitimate. Hey, this guy might get injured. I don't want to fully guarantee his contract is an argument on the side of the players.
Well,
because what you're basically saying is I'm going to pay you, but I'm also going to. There's also a very good chance that you're going to not only get hurt, but also shorten your life and also debilitate yourself further down the road. So I don't want to pay you if that happens. Like that's wild.
Yeah, well, that happens in every walking day of life.
Which is why, again,
you know what I'm saying? Like I can't necessarily.
Which is why people should be for employees and why people should be for players.
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear you, but I just see so many examples. I see so many examples in the NBA.
I'd be very sad if a multi-billionaire NFL owner has to pay a guy a couple $1 million because their leg doesn't work anymore, and I don't want to pay his contract.
That's a little bit of a drastic
but that's true.
Example.
That's what it is.
But we also see on the opposite side, which is why this is a multi-leveled or multifaceted.
Very, very.
There's a lot of There's a lot of players that just aren't. Whether they quit, whether they get injured, whether their play significantly drops off. In baseball and in basketball, where guys are getting paid astronomical amounts of money for doing nothing now, and so if I'm an owner, and I'm not on owner's side or necessarily the player side, I'm on what's practical, right? I could see it from an owner's.
I'm cool with guys getting a couple $1 million, even if they're not great anymore.
But we're also talking about guys that are making $30 million that can't do it anymore, and while. it's fun to stick it to management and all that, and I get that sentiment. You also have to be practical about it, because I'll tell you what ultimately happens. Who bears the brunt of all that? Who do you think?
Who bears the brunt of it?
Fans. Fans end up paying for those contracts in ways that are, is it greedy? Yes, absolutely. Sure. But when you see ticket prices going up in certain things, whether it's the Dodgers or whoever, go look at Dodger prices now. It's the fans who end up paying for those. Hey, you know what? I want you to get every penny you deserve. Yeah.
Just so we're clear, I'm also against that.
I know, but there's no other.
There is. But
I don't know. I don't know that way in a capitalist society.
Of course, yeah. I don't think like Walmart needs to raise the prices of tickets on the teams that they own to cover. Like, I don't think that has to happen. I think they have it. So I mean, that again, it's a very multi-layer discussion.
Yeah,
but
it gets into when you start going into the layers after the layers after the layers.
The bottom line of all of this, the reason the discussion happens is because what is going on with the NFLPA now, and obviously last night the executive director was pushed out because there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things where the NFLPA wasn't necessarily, and be careful about exactly how to phrases, they weren't necessarily working fully for the players, and we've suspected this for a long time. Now we've kind of seen the somewhat evidence of it. So that's what happens with the NFLPA. That's what led to a lot of this stuff. So that's what part of this discussion. And it is relevant, and it's very important to what's going on
without
with football,
question.
with camps opening. And I think with players coming in, you're going to hear a lot about this. A lot of what I heard from the Raiders players this week, and I did talk to several of them, was it's the summer. Like, football's starting, and we're going to be paying a lot more attention to this. But right now it's the summer.
Right.
And I think as they come into the building, you're going to start hearing a lot more about what's going on with the guaranteed contract situation, with the PA, with all that stuff, as players are coming in and starting to really catch up to it and get caught up on it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that in a group of it's what is it, 90 players right now, and then it gets cut down to 53 along with your practice squad players. It's always interesting how many are hardcore about it and how many are.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just trying to do my thing.
Play.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, even within the players, just to wrap this up, even within the players, there's discussions like this.
Yeah.
There's arguments like this. There's trying to figure out exactly what the best is. But I think it's very notable that part of what's going on with the NFLPA is they were not filling in the players on a lot of things that were happening that they probably should have known about.
Yeah, that's a real problem.
Which is a problem. So I think it's important for this discussion. I'm sorry if you aren't in the weeds on this or don't want to be in the weeds on this, but it is going to be a big story the next couple of days, next couple of weeks as they start to ramp up into training camp. But there is actual training camp stuff going on.
Thankfully, right?
And there's also betting stuff going on right now, Vinny.
Yes, there is. And to talk about that, we are going to go to our own Heidi Fang, along with Chuck Esposito, the Station Casinos STN Sports race and sportsbook director, and they're going to do their thing that as they always do on a weekly basis.
This one's for the Vegas locals and Vegas locals only. STN Sports is the sports betting experience built for you. From the app to the 19 convenient locations across the valley to sign up, bet, and watch your favorite games. And with a massive betting menu and daily odds boost, there are tons of ways to get in the action. Sign up today.
And joining us now here on the First and 10 podcast in for his weekly segment, it's the race and sportsbook director from Station Casinos, Chuck Esposito. We're going to get you handled here with all of the numbers that you need to know as training camp ramps up for the Raiders starting this week. Of course, as Vinny and Adam said, July 23rd being the date. That's a Wednesday. We will get the opportunity to speak to Pete Carroll and hopefully some of your favorite players. We're looking right now at the signing of Jack Bech being a big topic of discussion on this particular podcast. And Chuck, getting into seeing this second round pick now signed with the Raiders, what does this mean for the team that finally they've got all of that solidified before training camp gets underway?
I think it's great for the Raiders, Heidi. I think, you looked at their offense. We know they added Genty, and we know they have Bowers and Geno Smith. But outside of Jacoby Myers, we know they needed some help at wide receiver. So getting Jack Bech in the mix right now, in the fold, I think it's big. Getting him early to make sure he's there for the entire camp, I think really helps a lot. As we've talked about, the AFC West is a really tough division. I think the AFC West and the NFC North are two really tough divisions. And I think in this case, the Raiders might as well have all those weapons and all those guys in early to kind of learn. Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and Geno Smith get familiarity with each other, so that offense can start clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, and we've got Ashton Jeanty as a big focal point of this rookie class, of course. And I wanted to get into that because you do have some props available right now for Offensive Rookie of the Year at Station Casinos. And right now, of course, Cam Ward leading in that category at plus 190. But Ashton Jeanty, not far behind as the second choice for Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 200 on the STN Sports app. Chuck, I mean, what do you think happens as training camp gets underway, and will these numbers kind of adjust as the money starts to come in on some of the tops and the favorites?
It'll absolutely adjust. We're looking at him all the time. I think in Genty's case, he's going to be the focal point of that offense. I can't imagine he doesn't have 200 to 250 carries, if not more. He's their guy. So I think, you look at Pete Carroll that loves to run the ball, Chip Kelly that's going to try to get the ball in his hands. Either it's in the screen game or running the ball. He figures to be their goal line option. So I think all props that we have up right now, the guests or the bettors have shown a lot of love for Ashton Jeanty so far, as those odds have dropped all the way down to 2-1.
And Chuck, as we were speaking before we got here recording, we were talking about how much the public's coming in on the Raiders. A little movement on that week 1 game as well against the Patriots, who, of course, are still favored in that game. But what have you seen come in with the public with the Raiders on that?
It's been fairly one-sided. I know we've talked about it now for the last few years that there is a huge local bias. If it's the Raiders, the Aces, the Knights, but the public is really backing the Raiders here. That game opened up a while ago. We had all these week 1 games up now for quite some time, but the Patriots were as high as a 4.5-point favorite. They now sit at a 3-point favorite. So clearly some action on the Raiders right now, not just from the local bias, but some sharp action as well, getting those points, especially over a field goal.
And we've talked about your last man standing contest, but right now I'm literally scrolling through as I was just before the show because I wanted to check out some of the props. I mean, we talked about Jeanty on the Offensive Rookie of the Year prop, but you have total rushing yards in the regular season for Jeanty. You have rushing touchdowns for Jeanty. You can get all kinds of props and action here on this app. I mean, there's at least per team there's props that you can go in on, like, not just to make the playoffs, but the win totals. What can you tell us about all the options fans have here on this app that they can really get in on today, and at the locations as well?
First, I'm going to say, which I've said before, yay, sports books. We can start talking about football, that football's here. And you're right. I mean, there are so many different wagering options on the app. I think that's what makes it so cool, that you can find things throughout the course of the season that you can bet on now that give you something to root for every day. We know that you'll have, we have all the games up for week 1, all the Raider games right now, divisions, conferences, win totals, and all the player props too. So never too early to start talking football. There's already kind of that buzz in the air that you have more and more people in the book talking football. As you mentioned, our football contest, Last Man Standing, college and pro, we should start taking applications from our guests starting on August 1. So I'm super excited. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice and see it on my face that, it's kind of a quiet summer with just baseball going on, but we're excited for the start of football season.
Excellent stuff there, Chuck. I always appreciate the time and having you on. And anybody, if you're looking for a place to go to try to get in on some of this preseason action, they've got you covered over at Station Casinos. So thank you so much again, everyone, for tuning in. And now back to Adam and Vinny.
Our thanks to Heidi Fang and Chuck Esposito from Station Casinos STN Sports for their weekly segment. And we always love to hear from them. A couple of changes looming here for us here at Vegas Nation First and 10. Training camp starts next week. The team reports on the 22nd. First practice is on the 23rd. We're going to be with you, whether it's writing, print, videos, all that good stuff, photos, but also the podcast. This is breaking news, actually. The podcast, we will be doing the podcast throughout the week, every day during, after practice. So we'll be doing a post-practice weekly or during the week video, not on weekends, but during the week. So basically, the first practice is on Thursday of next week. Wednesday. First practice is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You can expect podcasts from us to wrap up practices, and we're really looking forward to it. And along those lines, Adam, what are you looking forward to seeing most? We kind of got our answer on Christian Wilkins. That was number one. Beyond that, first couple of days of practice, what are you going to be focused on?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously how the offense is evolving throughout. We saw a lot in the OTAs, a lot of minicamp. We did see I would say a lot of mistakes, but I think that's part of the process, part of learning. As they're starting to ramp up toward the season, what are they doing? Especially, we saw a lot of, and I think we talked about this a lot on the podcast, a lot of Ashton Jeanty as a receiver.
Yes.
And how do they continue to use that? How does that evolve? I think that's a big one. I would like to say how the rotations kind of start to form, but that really doesn't matter in training camp. We've seen it over the years. Like, you're like, oh, those are the starters. Like, no, they're not. They're just out there at this point. Or, oh, this guy's filling in for this guy. Like, no, he had to go to the
What's
bathroom.
interesting about that, it's a great point, is that there really aren't a whole lot of identifiable open starting jobs right now, except for cornerback. That's the one that, to me, a little bit on the offensive line, but I think that's fairly. I think they have a blueprint in their mind of how they want to go on the offensive line. But that cornerback room, and for me, that's why it's the most fascinating. There's two actually: wide receiver and cornerback. And in fact, let's start with cornerback real quick, or excuse me, wide receiver real quick. We saw a lot of Dante Thornton, and I don't know during OTAs and minicamp. I don't know if that was just to see if you're the Raiders, what do we have in this guy?
Right.
Put him in all kinds of different situations. And I think people maybe almost mistakenly took that because Jack Bech was more on the second team as he had leapfrogged over Jack Bech. I don't think that that's the case.
No, I don't think so either. I think, like I said, a lot of it is just seeing this guy with this guy. How does this guy play with this guy? Obviously, there's some crossover into what Jacoby Myers does best, what Bech does best.
Yeah.
They're not the same player. There's a lot of crossover of what they excel at, where they excel. So how does that work?
Yep.
Obviously, you got Thornton and Tucker on the outside. How do they kind of mesh? How do you get them on the field at the same time?
Right.
How can you best utilize the speed?
No doubt about it.
Both together.
That's why wide receivers so.
I think it's more. I don't even see like starters necessarily at wide receiver. I think it's all packages and how
I completely agree.
How they're going to be
completely agree.
dispersed. And I think they just want to see how this guy plays with this guy, how this guy plays with this guy, how does this guy play off this route. I think they want to see all of that. So certainly as we go through, you're going to hear even us say like, oh, the quote unquote first unit, this guy was with this guy, and
right.
a lot of it is like just getting caught up in the moment sometimes. But relax, like just wait till the season starts and how they put guys together. And it was funny, I was actually talking to Dan Mullen yesterday from UNLV, obviously a longtime SEC coach now. He's with UNLV, and he was talking about that. He said, as we go into camp, you guys are going to be freaking out every day about starters. Who's the starter?
Yeah.
Who's the starter? Who's the starter? And he said, I'll tell you, even into the season, the guys that start the game are not always going to be the guys that end the game.
Right.
Like a lot of times you're just deploying different sets and different packages and different lineups and that sort of thing. So he's like, I care who the closers are, not the starters.
Right.
It's an interesting point. I think that's part of this too. I think who the guys that are quote unquote starters for the Raiders offenses in particular are not necessarily the guy that's going to be on the field when the most important play, third down in the fourth quarter happens.
And it's an excellent point, and which is why for fans that will be attending training camp, always keep an eye on the down and distance. Look at and see what they're working on at that exact moment and that exact time, and who's on the field to fit that. Because to Dan's point and your point, so much of football now is situational.
Yeah.
So look at the down and distance. Look at the period. Is it a red zone period? Is it a 2-minute offense period? Et cetera, et cetera. Real quick, cornerback. Are we going to see Darian Porter and Eric Stokes as the primary starters? Even though we're talking out of both sides of our mouth here with the starters, but I think that is something that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Or Jacorian Better.
I was going to say JB is.
I know.
To me, I mean, I think depending on where he's at, like when he's playing well, I think he might be Stokes and Jacorian, I think, really are the most maybe ready right now. Porter, we don't know exactly.
I guess he has a lot to say about that.
Yeah, exactly where he is. I mean, obviously all the physical traits are there. He doesn't have a ton of experience in corner. But I think this training camp is big for him. Like, how ready is he? I know the future. He's the future. Is he the now? I think that's one of the things we're going to find out here in training.
Well, we're going to get our first glimpse of that in less than a week now, which is crazy to say. We're going to be there every step of the way. We truly appreciate your support. Listen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you have a friend that's a Raider fan or a family member that's a Raider fan, send them a subscription to Vegas Nation or alert them of Vegas Nation First and 10 podcast. We'd really appreciate it. You're why we do this. Thank you very much. I want to say thanks to Heidi Fang, our producer, Station Casinos, STN Sports, and the Las Vegas Review-Journal for all of their support. Thanks to Adam Hill.
We will. Before we close, you're going to throw it out. We did forget to point out Brock Bowers might be Babe Ruth.
Oh, well, you know,
He might be Babe Ruth.
Hate to pat
It was
myself on the
incredible.
back. Yeah, I just looking at him, and I've never mentioned this to him. I should have, but I feel like I did this with Blake Griffin. I said, you would have been a great NFL tight end. He just started laughing because I was a wide receiver in football.
Yeah.
He played every sport, right? And he goes, I'm glad I did because I would never be here right now playing in the NBA. Had my dad forced me to just play basketball, I get bored. And I always looked at Brock and I'm like, you put a bat in his hands.
Well, he did spread it around a little bit that he might not be very good. He was
Oh,
sandbagging.
hustling.
And then he murdered the ball in home run derby. He hit several home runs in the game. I think it was 4, including a walk-off grand slam to beat the Golden Knights. He was incredible in that game. Now,
The natural.
defensively,
He's a DH.
yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Stick him in
Yikes.
left field.
It wasn't good.
Put him in left field.
But he was incredible. It was a great night. A lot of money
Yeah.
raised. That's the important thing.
For sure.
But Brock Bowers was great. Before the game, AJ Cole told me that Brock Bowers essentially on the golf course is like John Daly. He's going to mail it. You just don't know where it's going to be delivered. And he said he thought he might be that in softball too, and he was. He went up above the scoreboard and onto the roof of City National Arena where the Golden Knights practice. It was incredible. So
Yeah, to steal a term from the 70s, strong as an ox.
Yeah.
And fast as the wind. Trust me, this guy is the natural. Looking forward to seeing Brock Bowers absolutely in training camp as well. Thank you so much. We'll be back with you guys next week.